is that focused at winning the crypto native people, or are you guys going to be looking to go broader than that within the short term?
There are companies who solve problems that crypto creates, and there are companies that solve problems. That's a major distinction. We actually look at ourselves in a bigger level of fixing problems that exist.
Phin Totten, the head of marketing at Abstract.
An Ethereum Layer 2 blockchain using ZK rollups to make crypto fast, cheap, and easy.
It hides blockchain complexity with gas-free transactions and simple social logins for mainstream apps.
What vertical do you believe the most in terms of the consumer app?
Things that are part of a stream, things that are incorporated into streaming, that's where you're going to have the most, I think, interest.
A big debate around all companies is obviously, do all of them need tokens?
I look at the desire to launch a token and I get it. It's because the easiest way to get money in crypto is to launch a token. And I mean that in the fundraising sense.
Obviously, you're going into a big period of launches. You have a community that's very excited. How do you mentally approach that?
I'm not a big fan of being delusionally bullish. I am a fan of being realist.
How do you still get excitement without driving that too far?
So you earn excitement credit every time.
Welcome back to the Lock-In or Log-Off podcast, where I speak to builders, creators, and investors to understand how they spotted the opportunity and how they navigated their way to success. Today, I'm joined by Phin from Abstract, who many of you know, but we're hoping to dive into a little bit of a different side of him today on the show. But to kickstart things, Phin, I have to ask you one question specifically. I know you're a big gamer. How has your gaming past led you to be the person you are today?
Ooh, it's a good question. I think it's honestly just being competitive. And gaming kind of always puts you in this place where like, there's two types of gamers. There's casual gamers, and then there's like your kind of hardcore gamers, your min-maxers. I'm a min-max kind of guy, so my obsession with understanding the complexities of a game make me also kind of like always want to go into things with the like I need to understand as much of it as I can. I need to understand as many little intricacies of the product or whatever I'm doing, and then I have to try and be the best at it. So I think that. I mean, also in general too, just like I don't know. I think competitive gaming also helps you. It sounds silly, but it helps with communication skills. Like I play a lot of Counter-Strike. When you're like really playing Counter-Strike with friends and it's like at a competitive level, like I play, it's like you have to. It's like crazy comms, right? It sounds like a joke, but it is like communication is everything. The wrong call is like the wrong decision. So like in the moment, you gotta make every single right call. So I think that I would say like it also helps with like that level of like level-headedness and communication. Yeah, that's a funny one. I'm realizing like a lot more influence than I thought. So I'm like, yeah, actually probably a lot of shit. Yeah, I think that's the main thing though, is like competitiveness, led me to always want to be the best, communication skills, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like whenever you play like a shooter or even anything competitive team-based of gaming, it's like you're basically in the heat of the moment, especially if it's like a fast-paced shooter, heat of the moment, a lot's going on, and you have to be like really clear with your communication to be effective. And like same with like your strategic thinking, right? Like when you get into the final stages, you should having to start thinking like outside of the box and like how do you navigate the situation based on what you've done before. And it's actually really interesting to see like the correlation between that and then like going into like the work world, and there's actually quite a lot of similarities.
Yeah, it's weird that like it's not something I've like thought about before. But I assume my years of playing games like the Portal games or any kind of like strategy games too probably had some part to play in that. Yeah, it's funny too, as I've gotten older, I've shifted to much more like punishing games. So like most recently has been a bit of a stint into Escape from Tarkov, which is like
Nice.
one of the most painful punishing games possible because like you don't get your stuff back. You die and your stuff's gone. Other people take it, and you have to kill people to get their stuff. So it's a very punishing game, but it's also like a super high level of reward. But I don't really play that many games these days as much as I would like to. I think I used to probably play a couple hours a day. These days, probably if I'm lucky, I'll get an hour out of my day, maybe 2 hours if it's a slow day for some reason. But I'm also balancing it with plenty of like these days where, like yesterday, I think I booted up a game because I had to claim some like daily thing. outside of that, I didn't even like play games the whole day. I think I like logged into Counter-Strike. That's what it was. I had to like claim something in Counter-Strike. That was it. Like the extent of my games that day.
It's interesting though, like a lot of the people I find like that are the best in Web3 tend to come from a background that was within gaming. Like a lot of the best traders, a lot of the best meme coiners, I think it's like because of that competitive side mixed with like the like having an edge on in the online world. I think there's been a big correlation between a lot of people who do tend to be like the people who have come up from like basically traded their way to good money in the space, come from a big gaming background specifically, which is pretty fascinating from like the strategic thinking and also just like the opportunity in Web3 specifically.
Yeah, I noticed it this last cycle, like a lot of FNF kids. It was very interesting too because like I didn't know if it was like a real correlation, and then we met this guy. I don't even actually really fully remember how the connection happened. I think maybe Mungo had met him. This guy Lays, who's now he's like stable Ronaldo's camera guy. But he was just, he's one of the buddies, one of the guys in like our chat for a while, and like he didn't know shit about trading, but he like absolutely cracked Fortnite kid. And I remember we like brought him in to trade like shitcoins, and he turned like $100 into like 25-30 grand in like a very short time frame, which was crazy to watch. Just like, yeah, there's some I don't know what the correlation is, but there's some correlation between Fortnite and meme coin trading that just does not make sense, but somehow is there. And maybe if someone figures out what that like secret sauce is, maybe there's like a business model there.
Yeah, just onboard all the Get Fortnite players to come come trade with your money and see what results you can get.
Well, Orangey kind of did that. I remember when like Dookie Dash happened. I'm pretty sure he basically like got a bunch of like Fortnite kids to come in and play Dookie Dash for apes and to like be paid to play to get them their higher placement and get the better sewer passes. So I think that was like a little bit of a model back then, but I don't think anyone's done it as much since then, or maybe they are and we just don't know about it. Like maybe someone
behind the scenes.
Yeah, maybe someone's coordinating all the Fortnite kids. But,
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I think we've seen less of that this cycle, especially obviously with the Web3 gaming side of things, probably not being in the best place from like a higher level gaming side of things. I think there's definitely obviously the more Web3 centric games are doing a lot better, like especially even in the abstract eco, we've seen that a lot. But obviously you had a big background at Ronin as well, kind of before abstract and everything like that. What were some of the biggest learnings you had from your time at Ronin that you've now taken to your time at abstract?
That's a good one. I think there's been like a couple of important things that I pulled from Ronin. I think like primary was community building. I remember when I joined Sky Mavis, I wasn't a community member, and so there was a lot of people in the community who were like, "Who the fuck is this guy? Like, why is he around?" And so anyone who said that, I would just send them a DM and be like, "Jump on a call for me. Let's like chat. Take a 15-20 minute call. Like, let's talk. You should know me. I'll know you." And then you can know like who the fuck this guy is, and then you can decide like, do you like me or not? And so I took that as like that ended up being like a winning strategy. It was just like being willing to be there for the people that wanted a person to talk to, but maybe weren't getting the kind of responses they wanted or the interaction they wanted. So that was kind of a big one. I think another thing that I learned a lot was, especially from the BD team, just like learning about how to look at Web3 products and really how to like monetize and importantly like what makes, because I think a lot of changes bring in product for the sake of having product. The problem is you actually need to bring in product that can build revenue and can build like a sustainable model. And I think that's why abstract has kind of stuck out a little bit more than others, is that level of like, it's very clear that our games and products are built with a revenue model in place and they're not just there for no reason. And I think people got a little bit like, or were a little confused at like, oh, what's up with all these products? And it's like, well, we think they're all revenue generating. And that was pulled from, seeing how Sky Mavis and Ronin especially like looked at every one of its games, which was like, hey, how does this game make money? Right? Like, it's not just like, how does this game fun. It's like, okay, the game is good, but how does it make money? Because ultimately, like, if the game can't make money, what's the point? And especially over the last 6-8 months, like, we've been more interested in looking at like, how do you build these models where people don't look at it as extractive, right? Because we're having this like giant debate in crypto right now, which is like, is revenue extractive? Which is the dumbest debate.
Crazy to think.
It's a crazy debate. It's just like a nonsensical, like, no, revenue is not extractive. You can get revenue through extractive methods,
Yeah.
but revenue is not extractive. Revenue is just a byproduct of success. And I think that's like the kind of, silly thing that we're going through. But yeah, I mean, generating revenue from product, community building, those are like the two kind of biggest things I pulled from Ronin. And then I think a lot of the other stuff was like some of the things I wish we had done at Ronin, or like things that didn't go well, was just like trying the inverse of those, or trying to like refocus on them. I mean, I think it's funky too, because like anytime you move from ecosystem to ecosystem, you can't really copy paste everything. You have to like kind of put a new spin on it. And I think Abstract was just kind of a culmination of like the last like 5 years of my time in crypto. It was just like, okay, what are the little things I liked? Where are the things that I was interested in? How did I like what people talked about? What did I not like people talking about? And then just kind of, brought those around and kind of slammed them down into this like this new function.
Yeah, I think there's a lot I want to dive into, especially on the revenue side of things. Obviously, like we say, there's a lot of ways you can make revenue through extractive ways. But what have you found, especially from the ones that have found it from created revenue from a more sustainable manner? I see, from my perspective, a lot of the ones I see, they're like Web3 first, specifically. Like they find out how to tap into that Web3 audience first instead of trying to build for that so-called mass adoption as such. In terms of you guys learning specifically, is that one of the big ones of like just focusing and making the product entertaining for that Web3 audience and then look to scale after that? It's like basically build the revenue, gives you more longevity as a company, and then you try to figure out how you then transition that to a broad audience. How do you guys see that specifically of like sustainable revenue models?
No, it's pretty spot on. Like it's fundamentally like how Abstract is built, right? Like there's no sense in us going out to a mainstream audience right now, because ultimately, like, what are people going to see, right? What are like, is today's version of Abstract what we want to present? No, not yet. It's not ready for that like mass scale appeal quite yet. I think we're on the path to get there, but it's not there yet. In the same way we look at all the apps, like we have to get to a stable place so that we can go take risks and experiment. Again, it's like this whole thing. I think people just forget, like, we're not, a $200 million company. We raised $11 million. It's been a year since we started this journey, and building a blockchain is expensive. These things are expensive. So we can't, I can't go out and spend $5 million on a crazy campaign, or $1 million on some crazy thing, right? That just doesn't exist. And I'm proud of the fact that like we really haven't spent much money on marketing in general. I think the biggest expense for marketing has just been like the team itself. Like that's been the biggest expense. I haven't even spent more than maybe 10 grand on a single activation. And even then that's like probably an event that we've done where we just didn't have enough sponsors to cover it, kind of thing. So, we're very strategic about the way we do things, and we tell games to be the same way, which is like, you got to get the product to a sustainable place, and then go explore, go expand, go do crazy things, go out there and like try, something that something that could be the ticket to like breaking out into the mainstream. And the whole time we teach our teams a lot about viral distribution and areas of content to focus on. I think probably 2 or 3 times a week I'm talking to teams about like creators they should focus on, or niches on TikTok that they should pay attention to, or all these kind of things, just with the intention of like, inevitably there's going to be a time where I make that mention, and they have something for it, they try it, they test it, and it works. Like Duper, for instance. Duper is a pretty complex game for crypto natives, but it's not super complex in like Web 2, in like traditional gaming. And I pushed them really hard to make a TikTok, and I think they've got like 15, almost 20,000 followers on TikTok. Their videos are getting anywhere from 10 to 100,000 views, and like that's great. Like that's better than almost every other Web3, game or product that's trying. And I think that's the biggest part. It's just like forcing more of these teams to try, forcing more of these teams to like go out there and just like do something, just like take the risk a little bit. That's been another big part. Yeah.
With the like consumer crypto gets thrown around a lot, right? And obviously you guys are the consumer crypto chain. I think a lot of people top of mind think consumer crypto as being something that needs to be pushed outside of crypto natives specifically. I think a lot of minds go to like, okay, like all these consumer apps that are then going to drive mass adoption and everything like that. And like, look, we've seen a few breakout stars across all of crypto. Very few, but not loads. But fundamentally for like Abstract to win, is that why you guys are very much focused, like a lot of the biggest players in your ecosystem or ones that are focused on the Web3 core community? Are you guys as Abstract specifically, even with like your strategy over the next 6 months specifically, is that focused at winning the crypto native people, or are you guys going to be looking to go broader than that within the short term?
Oh, we're looking to start branching out as soon as like probably next month or two. Yeah. The truth is that you just, again, like I kind of mentioned, it's like you have to have the time where that makes sense, or you have to have the product where it makes sense. I think for a very long time, crypto just hasn't had products that make sense for that. I was talking about this a lot. I mean, not even just recently. It's been a thing that I've really tried to push a very long time. There are companies who solve problems that crypto creates, and there are companies that solve problems. That's a major distinction, right? Massive distinction. I don't look at Abstract as solving crypto's problems. Like I think we actually look at ourselves in a bigger level of fixing problems that exist. That problem is like fair, equitable distribution for product and creators through a platform. That's something that doesn't exist. When you look at things like Twitch, right? Twitch's sell-through product, Amazon, does not appear on Twitch.
Yeah.
Stake, the equitable product for Kick, does not show up on Kick. These are separate entities, right? So even the games that exist in there, you can't just click and immediately play one of those games. You can't click and go to the gambling site. You can't click and trade the stock some guy might be trading, right? These things are, distinctly separated. And I think the closest we've gotten so far is like TikTok Shop, right? Where you see something, you click and you buy. That's Abstract's model. You see, you click, you do. That's the difference, right? And so to me, it's like, are we solving a problem in crypto? No, not really. I mean, maybe to the level of like creating an easier onboarding process, but ultimately, all we really did was go to the model that we know works, which is social login, Google login. We know that people don't want wallet pop-ups. People don't know what a wallet is. And I for a long time thought that like the self-custody of EOAs was a good thing. But the more time I've spent in the space, the more I've realized that like we never should have given people the ability to self-custody the way that we did. Because if self-custody was the right option, and if this angle was the right option, we wouldn't see an exorbitant amount of hacks, scams, drains, any of this stuff. The reality is like people aren't giving 100% self-custody of their funds because I don't think you can actually trust. Like most people can't be trusted with 100% of their funds. It's why we go from bank account to card to purchase. Yeah. There are middlemen in the way. I think for the longest time we know that we now know that like the middlemen are very extractive. They are very problematic. And so I look at it as more of like, don't rebuild the bank, rebuild the credit card, rebuild the payment processor. There are infinitely more people are going to be comfortable with their money in the bank than they are going to be with their money in a wallet. But if you can give them a better card to use, that's something they're interested in. And so, we know that people are willing to put hundreds of millions of dollars into sports betting every year. What if you could put your hundreds of millions of dollars into a platform that would let you sports bet and let you gamble and let you buy Pokemon cards and let you play games and let you tip streamers and pay for subscriptions and pay for product at the store and, buy your whatever food you want? Like, what if that existed, right? So we're not entirely meant to be a full replacement like Web3 has been, but We're just trying to solve for like the areas we know are broken. We know that Twitch takes 40% of its creator earnings. We know that Kick takes 30% of creator earnings. We know that these platforms are not really for the creator and all. And it's not that we have to create a new way for creators to make money. You just have to cut out the problematic exorbitant costs, because if Amazon was integrated into Twitch, it wouldn't be a loss leading product. It would just be a product in the Amazon suite, in which case they wouldn't be as extractive, right?
So how does then, if Abstract is looking to cut that out, what is your guys' model to drive revenue? Because obviously theirs is getting that cut of the creator fees. How does Abstract look to basically monetize, to be able to make revenue, to make up for that not taking a big cut?
Yeah, I mean, in its like current form, we could basically take like less than 5% of fees. If we were to enable subscriptions and took a percentage in tips, it'd probably be somewhere in the 5 to 10% range. So 3 times less, or even 4 times less than most, and we would just cover the cost. We don't like. I don't look at streaming. People got really confused about why we had streaming. Streaming is not the product. It's not meant to be a product that makes money. And it's actually why Twitch and Kick are bad models, because they're missing the money-making product. For us, we make money off of fees. We make money off of sequencer fees, trading fees, platform fees, all of these things, right? That's where we make money. We make money on scale of users. Impact per user is so low, right? The average user has never noticed any of the transactional fees that we take or any sequencer fees, because our tech is really good. Everything is really smooth. It's really easy to use, and it's super cheap. But at scale, it starts to become profitable. And so all we have to do is cover cost of that. We don't actually have to make money there, and I don't ever plan to make money there. I would actually be shocked if we ever made money on streaming, because it's not the intention. And so people got confused because they're like, oh, you're a streaming platform. And it's like, we're a distribution platform. We just have streaming.
Yeah, so you're trying to make it closer between the point of purchase and point of participation between streamers and apps specifically. Like the goal is like currently right now, Twitch and Kick, everything like is very segmented from like what they're doing on their screen to people being able to participate with them in that. And fundamentally, the person who wins most in the first place would be the apps, but then hypothetically also the streamers can convert a lot easier. So then they also benefit because they can convert higher amounts to the app. So like it's a mutually beneficial.
I discuss it as it's funny. I joke about it being a reverse funnel, right? I joke about the pyramid scheme. It's not. When I say triangular distribution funnel, I'm talking about in the sense of that you have a builder, a user, and a creator, right? And they create the 3 sides of your pyramid. The builder is looking for users, which they find through creators and through the platforms. The platform's in the center, right? The platform is the inside of the triangle. Your creators are looking for fans and engagement, which they find through tapping in with builders, getting access to product, and selling it as an exciting thing to fans. And users who are looking for something fun to do come in and find it through creators. So everyone gets supported. Builders get a new form of distribution, creators get a never-ending stream of content, and users get a never-ending stream of content and things to do. And so it's ultimately like a self-servicing product. And so
then with the chicken and egg situation, with all those, how do you work? Like which side do you pull up first of being able to like provide more? Because obviously you need streamers to like, basically it's like a flywheel in a way of like the value being able to transfer. Which one do you guys look to build up first? Or is it like you build up, you kind of start matching them by bit, basically?
Yeah, it's the second. So it's okay. You basically pay attention to where things are ebbing and flowing, right? You go, okay, there are more users. Like we look at the numbers where it's like, okay, more people are visiting the Discover tab and the streaming tab by X margin. More people are using apps than deploying. We are seeing that number of new apps is dropping off, but user activity is going up. Okay, so people need new things to try. So we're always just looking at everything and kind of making that decision of like what area, do we need to focus on? It's like, okay, average number of streams is up, so we know that that's good. Average number of streams is down, so we probably need to go approve a bunch more people to stream or do some reactivation campaigns, drop a streaming event, do a challenge, do a live ops thing, do something that reactivates those people. So it's kind of a constant game of like, what's happening in the ecosystem? How do we properly tap into it? How do we pay attention to that? All that stuff.
And on the app side of things, obviously the flow is to make it a better funnel for apps that are, especially that apps that are streamable, whether that's games, whatever that looks like. Will there be a world where you guys look to get Web 2 apps just to use it as a funnel to drive UA that aren't fully blockchain?
Oh yeah. We're on like a whole campaign right now, specifically around that. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And okay. Do you, outside of
Look,
that?
the truth is that, like, I was asking someone this recently, like, what makes a game a Web3 game?
Yeah.
And the truth is, 99% of people would fall into the category, or 99% of people would say just like it has a crypto element. And then you get into a 50-50 of either there's on-chain assets or you can just pay in crypto.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people seem to agree that just paying in crypto was enough to make it a Web3 game, because most of the time, like, that's all you can do. You just pay in crypto.
Yeah.
So we were actually very interested in like the mobile game monetization funnel, and seeing like, what if you went and grabbed a bunch of, like, not failed, but like games that maybe had a moment and that moment dropped off. What if you had acquired a couple of those and just built in a monetization funnel that was simple and easy? And like mobile gaming was just like an energy system, and you bought more energy every day, and you opened loot boxes, and you had a battle pass, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Test that model. It's relatively cheap to acquire some of these games or get them to integrate this stuff, and then you test it and you say, okay, is this something that works? So yeah, we're always looking at kind of the Web 2 element. It's just, the question always becomes, like, for a lot of these Web 2 companies, they just need to know what's like, they don't understand. So you have to present them with the least intrusive and least problematic version. What they're usually going to see and what they usually get excited about is they end up seeing the highest LTV for any of their users they've ever had before, right? They're basically seeing that like the average player is in their top 1% of spenders, right? Our average crypto player is their top 1%. And so it's a very interesting dynamic there too, where they find this very small subset of users. They get very interested in like, oh shit, these people spend. And then they want to kind of figure out, how do they continue that? How do they do that? And the hardest part is that traditionally those users are high LTV because there's an expectation of some kind of kickback. The difference being, like, the model that we're pitching, there's not really a kickback, right? It's just that you're paying in crypto. So that's like the funky part. It's like trying to, you're relearning existing user behavior, relearning developer behavior, and you're trying to do it all at the same time so it works out productively.
And fundamentally, it's so weird because like a lot of people position it as like going to Web 2 for an audience, but funnily enough, like from that, you're actually getting Web 2 companies to come to Web 3 for the audience, because like we have the appetite to spend is obviously so much higher, and that's like native, like why we see crypto native projects can make such high revenue, is because those within this ecosystem have a lot of money to spend. That's interesting. That is but on the mobile gaming side of things, like, would there not be a barrier for that specifically for the streaming side of things? Because obviously, like, mobile gaming, like, how have you guys found that?
You can stream on your phone. You can stream on your desktop.
Yeah.
BlueStacks is an incredible tool. You can just load up any mobile game on your computer and stream it.
Interesting. And how, like, why have you guys gone for this approach compared to, like, obviously the landscape of layer 2s?
Nobody else would.
Yeah.
Because for 5 years I've sat in this industry and watched people lie to themselves about what was going to work. And then all it really took was like essentially this combination of like Luca, Saigar, myself, Mason, our head of Eco, just coming together, and our team coming together and just being like, guys, something's fucking, this is just dumb. Like, we're watching this. This is Stockholm syndrome at its finest. Like, what are we doing here? Like, really? And so that was all it was. It was just like, hey, we can just do this the way that it's worked forever and just put a spin and a new approach on it. Like, why are we sitting here trying to, like, throw the same square crypto model at the circular consumer hole? Why are we doing this? Why are you trying over and over to get the same? Like, it's not going to be shit coins. It's not going to be this, like, the hyper gambling. It's probably not going to be NFTs. It is going to be a fun game, a fun app, a fun product. It's going to be a viral product, right? That is all it comes down to. Is like, can you hit viral scale with your product? And is it solving a real problem, or is it just solving a problem that crypto created?
What vertical do you believe the most in terms of the consumer app that can have potential? Obviously, the ones that we've seen have good potential is like prediction markets,
Anything streamable.
anything
That's the
streamable.
vertical. It's like a new vertical. It's streamable product, right? What can
Because
you
of
do on a stream?
because of consumer behavior, like naturally across Web 2 and just Gen Z and new generations.
Yeah, they just care about things that they can do on a stream, things that are part of a stream, things that are incorporated into streaming. That's where you're going to have the most, I think, interest, is anything that can kind of tap into that. I think that's also a tough one because I think a lot of people think that their product is streamable or there's some aspect that could be attached to streaming, and then the reality is it's not.
How exciting is it really? Like to be able to stream something for like a long period of time, it has to be like exciting to watch as well as to just be like the person streaming.
It is one of the hardest possible things to build a product that people actually would stream for more than 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
That you have to build something that someone will sit there for 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
That is not an easy task. I also think it doesn't have to be that entire 6 hour range. Like I think it can be less. But you know, it's the truth is like it also can be something that just assists a streamer. We have an app coming. I don't know when this goes live, but in August we have an app coming called Amigo, which is like it's a very, very, very normie focused approach to the friend tech model. It's a mobile app already.
Yeah.
And like to me and to, you know, I've talked to the team a lot and their entire pitch was like going after streamers, after e-commerce guys, TikTokers, course sellers, OnlyFans models. Like that was their idea. They were like, why on earth would I pitch this to a guy on Twitter with, you know, 1,000 followers? Like I'll pitch it to the person who's already trying to sell a course, and the platform they use to sell that course is taking a 30-40% cut of their earnings. Like why not give them just a model that's like, oh yeah, you'll just keep all of your money, you'll also get trading fees anytime someone buys and sells access to your course. It's like that's a crazy idea, right? Like that's a really novel mechanic that you're not relying on this like, you know, fixed monthly income and having to get all these new people. It's like you just, you know, by nature you're going to earn off of the usage and trading and volume of like access to your information. That's a cool concept. And as you get more and more famous, like the value of that information increases. And so, you know, if you were a course seller and you get a fixed rate of, you know, $100 a month, but suddenly the demand is crazy, are you going to go ask all of those people to suddenly go from 100 to 500? No, but if you have these people who are willing to buy those access at 100 and now it's worth 500, that's kind of cool. And if they sell it, you make money. So it's like, you know, it's an interesting model. And like, I think friend tech was a good model. I think there was just like some issues with how it was run. I think it was just like, it was an underutilized product. I think it was advertised to the wrong people. I think the bonding curves were never properly really structured for scale. And again, they launched a token. I just think you can't like that. That isn't a product where a token should be launched.
Oh, that's I think that a big debate around all companies is obviously do all of them need tokens? And I think in 99% of cases we've seen no. But yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion specifically on that.
I think I look at the desire to launch a token and I get it. It's because the easiest way to get money in crypto is to launch a token. And I mean that in the fundraising sense. If you need to raise capital, just tell the VC you're launching a token and you'll see like the drool start to come out of their mouth. They're like excited for it. But it's true. Like I don't think every product needs a token. I think there's plenty of products. And we actually had this conversation recently with a team where the original, like way back when we first started talking, they had talked about a token. We talked again and they're talking about VC raise and all this stuff. And we were like, I don't think you should do this. Like you've got a revenue stream, you got a revenue model. Why? What would be the point of doing a token there? And the problem is that most companies look at it as that their product market fit or their chance to make all of the money that they need to do anything, that they have this like singular moment of TGE, which is like all of the money back, all of their money, it gives them the capital, the runway, blah, blah, blah. That's not how startups work. Like when you raise money for a startup and you raise, you know, a couple $1 million and you're going out to find product market fit, you don't have like one day or one moment where all of your money comes from on the back of selling out your customers. Like that's not how that works. So to me, it's like tokens make sense for blockchains. It makes sense for centralized ecosystems that require a controlled currency. Um, but I think there's times where there's plenty of teams where it's like, okay, why does it exist?
Yeah.
What is the value of this token? Like Pump Fun, prime example. Why?
Yeah.
Truly, like why? If you look back on it, Pump Fun launching their token probably was the worst thing that they could have done. There was zero reason for it.
They're making loads of revenue. They're
They're
the
making
fastest growing company in history.
They're making $1 million a day.
Yeah.
Why launch a token?
Yeah.
That revenue is the greatest replacement for dropping a token. It's the most amazing replacement. The truth of the matter is that they owed it to VCs.
Yeah, they raised against it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues we've seen is like a lot of teams got programmed to have their incentive to be a good TGE versus a good product, and then either they succeeded or they lost at TGE, and those who succeeded at TGE, they got their dopamine. They didn't actually then have the hunger to make a good product or like find product market fit first. Similar to like you said, it's like startups don't work like that. And if you look at Silicon Valley, any other tech industry, it's very much focused on like you have to find product market fit before you get that huge dopamine moment of like I've made it. Whereas like crypto's kind of reversed it, where like if you're good enough at marketing, you hit the right market waves and everything like that, you have a good TGE. Fundamentally, like a lot of those teams get their hits of like a successful product before even finding product market fit.
Yeah, and especially like if you don't have product market fit, if you don't have success and you launch a token, it's like, okay, option one, you're down forever. Option two is you then have to double down and spend an ungodly amount of time and energy on that grind back up. And I truly feel like most teams jump the gun. I think they get too excited. I think there's this idea of like, oh, if you don't do it now, you'll never work. And it's like, well, actually, you can kind of do it when it makes sense, and you should do it when it makes sense. You should wait until you feel like there's product market fit. Like Hyperliquid is a prime example of this. Like Hyperliquid did their token after people actually wanted the product and they were revenue positive, because the driving force behind Hype's price action was always the buybacks. It was the fact that like they were so revenue positive that they could be acquiring and proven they cared about their own product that way. And you have plenty of other teams who like you see them like, you know, they do 3 things and then they launch their token and you're like, oh, okay, well, wait a second. Like, we don't know if this is a good product. And now your token's
part of it's
out.
all like leading to the actual TGE. Like their focus as a team is all like, how do we build everything to the lead of the TGE instead of like, how do we focus on product first?
And almost entirely on the hardest part of this, and then we'll jump to the next topic, is if your product doesn't matter, the token is your product. And so if you rush the token's your product, good luck. So I urge teams to always reconsider like if and when a token needs to happen, because as soon as it happens, if your product hasn't already had success, the token's your product, and that is the hardest product in this industry to deal with, because if the product isn't good, people don't want the token. So if your product is the token and the token's not good, that's just nosedive.
Yeah, I think we've seen plenty of cases of that now, and a lot of people are bag holders of those tokens. But as we go on to the next topic of you guys obviously having a lot coming up in August, you guys have been marketing a lot, everything like that. We spoke a little bit before the show around the fact that expectation setting, and like, is it better for an announcement or a period for a company to like basically a launch to exceed expectations or to be underwhelming for the longevity of it, because they kind of both come with their cons in the way that if it's underwhelming, you then have to kind of build it back up. But if you exceed expectations, they then always have crypto goes too far on that realm of like having expectations that are just super unreasonable, and it's kind of never, it becomes hard to ever meet the wants or like the expectations of your community. How do you guys find that specifically? Obviously, you're going into a big period of launches. You have a community that's very excited. How do you mentally approach that?
You do your best. You get as excited about your product as possible. You put your baby out into the world, and then I think you are very comfortable with on the fly adjusting based on responses. I think that to me is the hardest part of it. I think very often I see teams who put out something they think is great. They get pushback on it, and there are two options. They are receptive of the feedback, or they're not receptive of the feedback. I'm not a big fan of being delusionally bullish. I am a fan of being very realistic about things. I think too often you see like, people have an expectation based on what you're saying, and if you can't deliver that, and if you're going at it in a delusional way, that's just going to lead to like more issues, right? If you can't actually like hold up your end of the bargain. My job as a head of marketing is like, I have to make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. I have to make sure that the talk we talk is the walk we walk, and that the delivery at the end of the end is like what we're saying. I could go out there and tell you like Abstract August is going to be the biggest thing that anyone has ever seen, but it's not, right? Like that's not how we go about it. For us, Abstract August is the biggest thing that Abstract has done. It's the most polished products that we're bringing to market. It's the time when we're really pushing towards like what we want to be doing next. But it's not the biggest thing in crypto. It's not the biggest moment in crypto. It's a big moment for us. And so it's my job to like set the kind of tone and stage for those kind of things where people can kind of start to understand what to expect. Because if you leave expectations entirely in the hands of your users, you will never meet their expectations. Because people's expectations will always go way further than what you can deliver on. That's like the promise I can make to any builder is like, do not give people the ability to have their own expectations.
Yeah.
Because this industry is filled with people who have a very unrealistic expectation of output and a very unrealistic expectation of delivery. So the best thing that you can always do is don't overpromise and underdeliver. Always underpromise and overdeliver. That's like, Luca hammered that into my brain for so many months. Underpromise, overdeliver. Underpromise, overdeliver. That's been the Igloo way. That's now the Abstract way. It's like our team is just like, that's all we care about.
How do you then, because like underpromising and over-delivering is the way, but then from a marketing perspective, how do you still get excitement without driving that too far? Because like there's a fine line of like, you push stuff, you make people excited, and naturally, yeah, they get ahead of themselves. So how do you do that from a marketing perspective that's like in a manageable way?
So you earn excitement credit every time you underpromise and overdeliver. You earn that credit, right? It's like a social credit that you earn from people. It's a trust. People listen to the things that me and Luca and Saigar say because we have a track record of delivery on the things that we say, right? Yeah. That there's not a unknown expectation. There's like a tangible expectation. So it's my job to ensure that one, I continue to get that social credit of like, okay, we underpromised, overdelivered. People, I get a little bit of credit here. Okay, this little credit here, this little credit here. So it's track record, right? It's building trust. People trust that the things that we're saying are not these like, potentially crazy things. And sure, there's always gonna be outliers that probably believe that, like Abstract is buying OpenSea, right? Like, it's not that happening. Like, or Pudgy was buying OpenSea. That was the thing. Like, you're always gonna have people that, again, expectation goes like crazy.
Yeah.
We didn't buy OpenSea. That would be nuts. That'd be like an absurd thing if we bought OpenSea.
It's going to be a lot of upset people right now.
I know. People were really thinking, they're like, oh my God, like this must be it. That would be crazy. But it's not true, right? Like that's not the case. So you can only really earn a level of kind of excitement and trust and expectation from people and then continue to deliver on that. And then once you have a bit of a record with that, I think people fall into line with understanding like what it actually looks like. But, I think far too often teams are willing to get excitement at any cost. They're willing to get hype and marketing at any cost. And my God, have I learned in my many years, many years doing social marketing. I mean, I was realizing recently that it's coming up on 15 years since I made my first dollar on the internet, which is fucking crazy. I have learned the dangers of excitement at any cost, that you are always giving something up. And it's not about it's not about if you give something up or not. It's how much you give up, where you give it up, why you give it up. And only the people who like truly get that are like successful in crypto and have longer than like a 3-week, 6-month hype cycle in their product.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially from the marketing side of things, they look for the quick fixes instead of like the method that you're saying is like you have to build the trust, right? And that takes a long time of proving what you say is the reality, and that takes years in a way. Like your reputation, kind of, it takes a very very long time for that to build out. And a lot of these teams, a lot of these marketing teams, obviously they have like 3 month sprints in many cases. They're like 3 months. We need to basically prove everything within these 3 months, and the only way they can look to even meet those marks is basically going down the route of just all guns blazing and trying to get as much hype.
You can't sustain that.
Yeah.
It's not like, and also, you just can't expect like a team to do that. It's just such an unrealistic thing. And I watch other teams do it in the space, and I would say 70% of my time is like working on abstract, and 30% is like market research. That market research has always led to me kind of being like, has led to the reason why our 70% does so well. I'll just watch what teams do, and I very often see teams go down those roads where I'm like, if I was a fly on the wall here,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting. Because I used to do kind of like more freelance stuff, and it's very funny now. Like when you're freelance, like it didn't actually really matter if someone was doing the right thing or not, because you're getting paid anyway. But now it's like it kind of matters, like it heavily matters if things are the right way or not.
What are some things you've seen from other teams that you have seen that you've liked? Are there any like standout things that you've been like, they've actually done that really well?
Yeah. I love Miggy's videos. I think Miggy's videos have been really fucking good. I like that approach. I've been a big, big, big fan of Coop and the AVAX team, Avery and all of them. I think they do a really, really good job with marketing for AVAX. I was actually telling Avery, we were in Dubai for Token. I was telling him that like the greatest piece of content that I've like ever seen on crypto Twitter was when they just uploaded that stream of the AVAX logo bouncing around to see if it would hit the corner. Stuff like that is like the kind of stuff where you're like, fuck, I wish I had like thought of that. That's such a fucking good video, but I can't do that now, right? Someone else has already done it. So big fan of them. I think the blank guys have been really, really good at what they do. Slade and Ultra and them, like I think they've been doing some really interesting stuff. I just had a call with Slade. Me and him always kind of randomly ping each other and yap for a while, and I think they're on top of it. I think they know what they're doing. There's like a couple of the ones that like come to mind right off the bat.
Yeah, I think they're all in their own unique way. I think they all have their different verticals of what they've done great. And I think that's kind of fundamentally what marketing does great, is those who aren't copycats and find their own way to do it, right? But as we come towards the end, I think a lot of people that'll be watching this will be wanting to know information or anything that you can share. Obviously, going into August, Abstract has been frothing with everything, really. The games, the meme coins, everything like that. The market's very exciting right now. And you guys are obviously going into a stage, like you say, where you're going to be pushing out the best products you've pushed out so far. But what else can you share about what people can expect to come over August?
It's a good question. I think you can expect that the product of the Abstract portal is going to get a lot of attention. The products on the portal are going to be getting a lot of attention, and we have 3 or 4 launches happening that we think are some of the most like ambitious projects that have come to Abstract in a very long time. Again, for the first time ever, we're going to have a mobile app that is coming to Abstract, and a mobile app that's fully integrated with HEW. You can buy crypto with your credit card and immediately use it, and use that same login on the Abstract portal and access those funds and try other apps. So it's going to be our first test at a real like mobile app onboarding flow. And then, then it's also kicking off our kind of big Asia tour, which is going to be a pretty big thing. It's been a lot of work over the last couple of weeks and just even months now prepping for that, and making sure that we kind of go and jump into a new market and make some waves. And I think August to me is just like it's a new look for Abstract a little bit. It's a new approach. It's me taking the time to say, okay, I feel comfortable with where we are, and let's start taking some risks.
Exciting. Very, very exciting for what you guys have to come. Top level wasn't too much to dive into in terms of being able to tease, but very
Not yet.
excited to see
Not yet.
what you guys got.
Soonish.
Cool. Very, very exciting. I like to, as I come to the end, I like to ask one specific question that's kind of bespoke out of it, but for people to learn from. And that's, what's one resource that you found most valuable to yourself, whether that can be podcast, book, AI, tool, anything like that?
Sounds silly, but find something to take your anger out on. I think I find very often that there's people who have ways to take out a lot of their emotions. Anger is one that I think a lot of people do a very poor job taking out or dealing with properly. Personally, I go to the shooting range and I'll go by myself and I will stay there for an hour and just take out any kind of pent up frustration or anger or whatever, get out of my system and just reset. I think it's been one of the most like powerful things for me is just like knowing how to kind of exhaust emotions properly. Because if I shift any emotion towards users or towards fans or builders, like that'd be the most dangerous thing to do. So having that sort of external vent that no one sees, almost the most critical thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't see those things, but yeah, I think it's fundamental. For me, it's always been sports. Like if I become incredibly frustrated or anything like that, I've got to go out, do anything active, get the heart rate going, and like you then get a clear mind. I think you have to have that in Web3. Even if you're not a builder and you're just a trader, I think you have to have a way to clear that mind because it's a volatile industry.
Yeah, and it's very important. I think your distinction is the most important. It has to be away from any sort of work or adjacent. Like it cannot. You have to be out. You can't just play video games, right? That's not an option because then you're at your desk still, and you're going to see a message. You're going to see a ping. Like this is like, I don't have cell service where I go shoot. Right? I don't have cell service there. I am out in the woods, an hour from my house, in the middle of nowhere. You know, like that's. I'm dialed into this thing. You have to be dialed in. So
yeah, got to have your way to escape the space because it is very consuming. And like you say, I think a lot of people just end up, you can make mistakes and ruin relationships very quickly just because of frustration. So I think having an outlet is very impactful if you're in Web3. But thank you very much, man. I'm super excited for everything Abstract has to come. Obviously, been a big fan of you guys from day one, and I think I'm excited to see what comes in August. I'm excited to try out all the new products and everything that you have to come. And yeah, I appreciate your time.
Dude, always happy to be here.